Hello everyone, my name is Theresa Martin and I am the author of this book, Dead Bees Don't Make Honey, 10 Tips for Healthy, Productive Bees. I'm pleased to announce that it is carried by Northern Bee Books. I am a beekeeper in Kentucky in the United States of America, and I have been keeping bees for 7 years with 20 to 25 colonies. In my entire time as a beekeeper, I have 99% colony survival. I've had a single colony die, I've never had a colony abscond, and I've never done a combine of 2 queen-right colonies because one was too small or weak to survive alone. I've also never purchased a queen. My bees are pretty productive. They're making twice the average honey crop for the state of Kentucky, and I sell a lot of locally adapted colonies each spring. Despite those pretty good results, I want you to know right up front, I am far from a perfect beekeeper. I make many mistakes and I never feel like I have this all figured out, and I am constantly learning. My locations are also far from perfect. I keep my 20 to 25 colonies in 4 different locations. Each of those locations has both advantages, but also some pretty significant disadvantages. And finally, my bees are nothing special genetically. They're all caught swarms, but they get sick just like everyone else's bees, and they have no special genetics that I'm aware of. I share those imperfections with you because it means that those results I shared are likely, at least in part, due to the methods that I use. My methods are grounded in the science of how and why honeybees survive on their own without human intervention. I started keeping bees in 2018, and my first 2 colonies that I ever got, they were nucleus colonies, and they came to me very sick. And I spent my very first summer as a brand new beekeeper studying the aspects of honeybees and how they keep themselves healthy. So I learned in my very first summer about the honeybee immune system, and I learned about propolis and tree cavities and thermal regulation, and I learned about mating biology. I was studying all the science about honeybee behaviors and their evolution and how they keep themselves healthy. And that was in 2018. Those 2 colonies that I first acquired, I actually asked the beekeeper that I got them from to take one of them back and give me a refund for that colony. I kept one of them. They're called West Hive, and I am happy to let you know that those bees are still alive and thriving today. That was 2018, and I got lucky in that 2019, Dr. Thomas Seeley came out with his book, which you're probably already familiar with, and I hope that you've read it. It's called The Lives of Bees, The Untold Story of the Honeybee in the Wild. And that was my great fortune that Dr. Seeley came out with this book, because it brought together a lot of the things that I was already studying about nature-based beekeeping, sustainable beekeeping, low intervention but high support beekeeping. And I started sharing and talking with Dr. Seeley about the practices and my application of not only his science, but many other researchers. And he suggested, he said, Theresa, you have information that is valuable to share with other beekeepers. You should write about it. So that's how the book came about. I don't think I would have ever written a book if it wasn't for Dr. Seeley's encouragement. And then once I finished the book, Dr. Seeley wrote the foreword, and I'm honored that he thought it was worthy of that. The book itself is, it has 4 parts to it. The first part is those 10 tips for healthy, productive bees. And those tips are somewhat of an application of Dr. Seeley's Darwinian beekeeping, but it also brings in various other researchers. And in fact, the end of the book, there are 160 peer-reviewed resources at the very end. So it is a very science-based section, the 10 tips for healthy, productive bees. And I structured part 1 with 4 sections. The first section is bee biology, which I think is the place to start every time. If we want to learn how to partner better with the honeybee, Apis mellifera, I feel it's important that we start by understanding the biology, the evolution, the preferences of that creature that we're attempting to partner with. So that is the first section of part 1, the 10 tips. The next section of each of those tips is conventional beekeeping, and it's a very brief description of some of the things that many of us are taught. The next section is practices for increased bee health and productivity, and then the fourth section is my implementation. And I want to explain that the biology and my implementation in each of the tips, they're pretty far apart, and that's on purpose, and they're very delineated, because I want to say, under no uncertain terms am I suggesting that my way of keeping bees is the one right way. We all have different environments, we have different philosophies, we have different time that we can devote to our bees. So I only offer these 10 tips as my suggestions for how I keep bees, or my explanation of how I keep bees, and then the science that underpins my choices. I humbly offer those to you so that you can find your own path to healthy, productive bees if that is something that you're striving to increase. So that's part 1 of the book, those 10 tips for healthy, productive bees. Part 2 of the book is my use of temperature sensors. I practice precision beekeeping, and I have a temperature sensor, one single temperature sensor in every single one of my colonies, and I'm very heavily reliant on the useful information that those sensors provide to me. And so I give 10 examples of my use of the temperature sensors. Part 3 of the book is about treatment-free and treatment-less beekeeping. I am not a treatment-free beekeeper. I very much wanted to be a treatment-free beekeeper. I still want to, but I don't have isolation. I don't have partnership or the ability to work with the other beekeepers to enable natural selection to occur. So what I do in part 3 of the book is I talk about the science around what it takes to achieve treatment-free, and offer an alternative, if you will, for those of us who are unable to practice treatment-free without the repeated catastrophic losses and the situation where natural selection will not occur. So I offer an alternative which is called treatment-less beekeeping, which relies very heavily on integrated pest management and then treating, in my case, with only the organics and as little as possible. Part 4 of the book is called The Bottom Deep, and it is the collection of some additional supplemental materials. Let's see, there is a frequently asked questions section where I answer 18 questions that I often get about my method. So I hope those are of use to you. There's also advice for new beekeepers that focus on bee health as the top priority. There's a calendar that is an application of all of the aspects of the book and my methods, and when to apply them and how to apply them. And you would need to tailor that to your own environment. Obviously, my calendar is tailored for Kentucky, where I live. So you would need to adapt it. And I am told that the calendar has sufficient detail to allow other beekeepers in other climates, other regions of the world to apply it. And then the final section in part 4, The Bottom Deep, is several things that I am personally working on to improve the art and science of my own beekeeping. And I share those with you in the book as much as an example that we never finish learning. There's always new science coming out, and it's revealing things about the honeybee that we can understand and then modify our practices to better accommodate their preferences. Because I don't think there's a beekeeper that disagrees with the title, Dead Bees Don't Make Honey. Healthy bees make far more honey than sick bees, and dead bees just don't make anything. They don't make honey, they don't make more bees. So that's what the last section is for us to continue learning. And I do want to say one more time that I am in no way suggesting my way is the one right way. And I say that several times in the book. I humbly present to you my methods, my reasons for my methods, so that you can find your own path to healthy, more productive bees. And I want to end with a quote from the book. Each of the chapters has a quote that I think speaks to what will come in that chapter. And this quote is from the last of the part 1, 10 tips. That chapter is called Synergies, and I show how the 10 tips come together to create a holistic way of keeping bees. And so that chapter is called Synergies, but the quote is by Sir John Lubbock, and it's from The Use of Life in 1895. And the quote from Sir Lubbock is, "Fresh air is as good for the mind as for the body. Nature always seems trying to talk to us, as if she has some great secret to tell." And so she has. Nature has some great secret to tell. I hope you enjoyed the book, Dead Bees Don't Make Honey, 10 Tips for Healthy, Productive Bees, written by Theresa J. Martin, with a foreword by Dr. Thomas Seeley, and you can get this book on Northern Bee Books. Thank you so much.